I knew it was going to be a long day the moment I pulled into the parking lot and saw my sister's Tesla. The restaurant was one of those places where they give you 3 forks, and you're supposed to know which one to use first. White linen tablecloths. Flowers that probably cost more than my grocery budget for the month. A pianist in the corner playing something I didn't recognize, but was probably famous. I'd left base at 500 to make the drive. 4 hours on empty highways with nothing but gas station coffee and the kind of silence that makes you think too much. I'd changed out of my ACUs at a rest stop 20 minutes out, pulling on jeans and a sweater in a bathroom that smelled like industrial cleaner. My mom didn't like it when I showed up in uniform. She never said it directly, but I could see it in the way her mouth tightened, the way she'd change the subject if anyone asked about my service. Rachel was already at the table when I walked in. Designer blazer. Hair that had definitely seen a salon that morning. She stood up and hugged me, and I caught the scent of perfume that probably had a French name I couldn't pronounce. "You made it," she said, and her smile seemed genuine. "I wasn't sure you'd get the time off. Wouldn't miss Mother's Day," I said, which wasn't exactly true, but what else do you say? Mom arrived 15 minutes later in a cloud of Chanel and expectation. She kissed Rachel on both cheeks, European style, even though we're from Ohio. Then she turned to me and offered one quick peck that barely grazed my cheekbone. We sat. We ordered. The waiter brought water with lemon slices so thin you could see through them. "So Rachel," Mom said, not even waiting for the menus to be cleared, "tell me about the expansion. How many new offices did you say?" My sister launched into a detailed update about her tech company. Something about market penetration and Series B funding and hiring a VP of operations. I understood maybe half of it. Mom nodded along like she'd been in business her whole life, even though she'd been a stay-at-home mom until the divorce, and now spent most of her time at book club and yoga. "And the Forbes list?" Mom asked, leaning forward. "Have you heard anything?" "My PR team thinks I have a good shot at the 30 under 30, Rachel said, and I could tell she was trying to sound modest, but couldn't quite hide the pride. "But nothing's confirmed." "CEO at 29, Mom said, shaking her head in wonder. "I still can't believe it. My daughter running a company worth millions." I took a sip of water. The lemon was too sour. The food came. Some kind of chicken with a sauce that had a name I didn't catch. Rachel had the salmon. Mom had a salad that cost $32 and was mostly decorative greens. "And how's the army treating you?" Mom asked, finally turning to me. Her tone was different, lighter, the way you'd ask someone about a hobby you don't really understand. "It's good," I said. "We're preparing for a joint training exercise next month. I've been selected to lead one of the—" "Rachel, didn't you say you're speaking at that conference in Austin?" Mom pivoted back to my sister without even a pause. I set my fork down carefully, kept my face neutral. It was a skill I'd learned in basic training, how to take something that hurt and file it away for later. Rachel glanced at me, and I saw something flicker in her expression. Discomfort? Maybe. She answered Mom's question, but her voice had lost some of its energy. We ate. Mom asked Rachel about her fiancé, about the wedding venue, about whether they'd decided on Cabo or Italy for the honeymoon. I cut my chicken into smaller pieces and chewed slowly. Then Mom set down her wine glass and looked at me with this expression I'd seen 1,000 times. Concern that wasn't quite concern. Curiosity that felt more like judgment. "Sweetheart," she said, and that word always sounded wrong coming from her. "Can I ask you something?" I knew what was coming. The same way you know a storm is coming when the air pressure changes. "Why aren't you a CEO like your sister?" The restaurant didn't go quiet. The pianist kept playing. Conversations continued at other tables, but everything in my immediate world seemed to stop. Rachel's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Mom continued, as if she'd just asked about the weather. "I mean, you're both smart girls. You both had the same opportunities growing up. Rachel chose to build something, to create value, to make a real impact in the world. And you chose, what? To take orders? To march around?" I didn't answer. Not because I couldn't, but because I'd learned that some silences are stronger than any words you could say. I stayed through dessert because leaving early would have meant admitting she'd gotten to me. Rachel ordered the tiramisu. Mom had decaf coffee with skim milk. I asked for the check and split it 3 ways even though Mom protested weakly, saying it was Mother's Day and we shouldn't let me pay. But she didn't offer to cover my portion. She never did. The goodbye hug was brief. Mom held Rachel longer, whispering something I couldn't hear. When she turned to me, Her embrace was the kind you give to an acquaintance you're not sure you'll see again. "Drive safe," she said. And think about what I said. I didn't ask which part she meant. The highway back to base was emptier than it had been that morning. Sunday afternoon traffic flowing the opposite direction. Families heading home from brunches and baseball games and whatever normal people did on holidays. I had 4 hours to sit with what had happened. 4 hours of that question replaying in my head. Why aren't you a CEO like your sister? Not, how's your career going? Not, are you happy? Not even, tell me about what you do. Just a comparison wrapped in disappointment, delivered over $32 salad. The thing is, it wasn't new. When Rachel got accepted to Stanford and I chose ROTC at a state school, Mom had made that same face, that look that said she was trying to understand but couldn't quite get there. "The military," she'd said, like I'd announced I was joining the circus. "Are you sure that's what you want?" When Rachel landed her first six-figure job at 23, and I was a second lieutenant making barely enough to cover rent off base, Mom had asked why I didn't use my degree for something more lucrative. When Rachel bought her first house at 26 and I was deployed to Kuwait, Mom had sent me a link to the listing with a text that said, "This is what success looks like." I'd learned to let it roll off, to nod and smile and change the subject. But today felt different. Today she'd said it in front of Rachel, in a restaurant full of people, like my entire life was just a question she couldn't figure out the answer to. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. I glanced down at a red light. "Rachel, I'm sorry about Mom." That was out of line. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry at Rachel. She wasn't the problem. She'd never been the problem. But because I didn't trust myself to type anything that wouldn't sound bitter. Another text came through as I merged onto I-40. "Mom, I hope you didn't take what I said the wrong way. I just want the best for you." I turned my phone face down and turned up the radio. The best for me. Like she had any idea what that meant. The sun was starting to set when I crossed into North Carolina, the sky turning that particular shade of orange that looks like a painting, but never quite photographs right. I stopped for gas at a station off exit 73, the kind of place with fluorescent lights and lottery tickets and coffee that's been sitting since morning. A kid behind the counter, maybe 19, saw my army hoodie and nodded. "Thank you for your service." It was automatic, the kind of thing people say without thinking, but something about it settled in my chest. Here, at a random gas station in the middle of nowhere, a stranger saw something in me worth acknowledging. My mom couldn't see it at a Mother's Day lunch. I got back on the road. By the time I reached base, it was full dark. The gate guard checked my ID and waved me through, and something in me relaxed as I drove past the familiar buildings. The motor pool, the training grounds, the barracks where I'd spent my first year as a freshly commissioned officer, learning how to lead soldiers who were older than me and testing whether I had what it took. I parked outside my apartment, off-base housing that wasn't much, but it was mine, and sat in the silence for a moment. My phone showed 3 more texts from Rachel and 1 from Mom. I didn't read them. Instead, I got out, grabbed my bag from the trunk and headed inside. Tomorrow was Monday, PT at 600, staff meeting at 900, a full day of responsibilities and expectations that had nothing to do with being compared to anyone else. The apartment was dark and quiet. I dropped my keys on the counter, changed into sweats, and made myself a cup of tea that I didn't really want. That's when I let myself feel it. Not anger exactly, not even sadness. Just this hollow ache that came from knowing your own mother, looks at your life and sees a question mark where there should be a period. I didn't call her back. I didn't call Rachel. I didn't post anything on social media or text my friends or do any of the things I might have done to process what happened. I just sat there in the quiet drinking tea that had gone lukewarm and chose to sit with it alone. Monday morning came at 05:30 with my alarm, and the kind of darkness that doesn't care whether you're ready or not. I was up anyway. I'd been awake since 0400, staring at the ceiling, replaying that lunch in loops I couldn't shut off. At 0500 I gave up on sleep and went for a run. 3 miles through base in the cold and quiet, just me and the streetlights and the sound of my own breathing. By the time I showed up for PT formation, I'd already burned off whatever I was going to burn off. "Good morning, Lieutenant," Sergeant First Class Morrison said as I approached. He was one of those NCOs who'd been in since before I was born, the kind who could read you in half a second and knew better than to ask questions you didn't want to answer. "Morning, Sergeant." He gave me a look, quick, assessing. then nodded toward the formation. Got a new private who thinks push-ups are optional. Figure you might want to educate him. I almost smiled. Almost. Happy to. PT was exactly what I needed. Cadence runs and flutter kicks, and enough physical exhaustion that my brain didn't have room for anything else. By the time we broke formation at 0700, my legs were shaking, and my lungs were burning, and I felt more like myself than I had since yesterday morning. Shower. Uniform. Coffee from the break room that tasted like burnt rubber, but had enough caffeine to do the job. My phone buzzed while I was reviewing training schedules in my office. Mom. Good morning, sweetie. Hope you got home safe. Love you. I stared at it for a long moment. Love you. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't spent Mother's Day dissecting my life choices over overpriced chicken. I didn't respond. Another buzz, 10 minutes later. Mom. Rachel told me you're upset. I really didn't mean anything by what I said. You know I'm proud of you both. Both. Like we were interchangeable. Like pride could be divided equally when she'd spent 2 hours talking about Rachel's company and 30 seconds asking about my deployment. I set the phone face down and got back to work. The staff meeting at 0900 ran long, the way they always did when the battalion commander got on a tangent about readiness reports. I sat in the back, taking notes, half listening to Major Chen complain about vehicle maintenance backlogs. Lieutenant, the commander said, and I looked up. Your lead on the joint exercise next month. Where are we on coordination with the Air Force? Finalized the timeline last week, sir. We're running the first integrated drill Thursday. I've got squad leaders briefed and we're set for equipment checks Wednesday. He nodded. Good. I want a full debrief after Thursday's run. This needs to be seamless. Yes, sir. It was a small thing, an acknowledgement, but it settled something in my chest that had been loose since yesterday. I spent the afternoon in the training yard, walking through scenarios with my platoon. We had 2 weeks to get this right, and I wasn't about to let my personal life bleed into my professional one. The soldiers needed me focused, present, capable. Ma'am, Specialist Torres called out. We've got a timing issue on the vehicle approach. Second squad's hitting the checkpoint 30 seconds late. I walked over, studied the setup, made an adjustment. Run it again, and Torres, tighten up that interval. 30 seconds is the difference between coordinated and chaotic. Roger that, ma'am. My phone buzzed again during a water break. Rachel, Mom's really worried she upset you. Can you just text her back? I took a long drink from my canteen and slid the phone back into my pocket without answering. The thing about strategic silence is that people expect you to break it. They expect anger or explanations or some kind of emotional spillover. When you give them nothing, it shifts the dynamic, makes them sit with their own discomfort instead of managing yours. I wasn't punishing my mom. I wasn't playing games. I just didn't have anything to say that wouldn't come out wrong. So I said nothing at all. By 1700, I was exhausted in the good way, physically spent, mentally clear, the kind of tired that comes from doing work that matters, leading people who depend on you, solving problems that have actual solutions. I grabbed dinner at the DFA's, meatloaf and mashed potatoes and green beans that had been cooked past recognition, sat alone at a corner table and ate while reading through tomorrow's training notes. Mind if I sit? I looked up. Captain Reeves, one of the company commanders. We'd gone through the officer basic course together 3 years ago. Go ahead. She set down her tray and studied me for a second. You look like you're thinking too hard. Just planning Thursday's drill. Right. She didn't sound convinced. Or you're dealing with family stuff and pretending work will make it disappear. I set down my fork. That obvious? Only to someone who's been there. She stabbed at her meatloaf. My dad still introduces me as his daughter who joined the army, like it's a phase I'm going through. Like any day now, I'll wake up and realize I should have gone to law school. Something in my throat tightened. Yeah, you don't owe them an explanation, Reeves said quietly. The people who don't get it aren't going to get it no matter how many times you try to explain. We ate in silence for a while. Comfortable silence. The kind you can only have with someone who understands without needing the whole story. My phone buzzed again as I was clearing my tray. Mom, I don't understand why you're ignoring me. I turned off my phone and drove home. Wednesday afternoon, my dad called. I was in my office finishing equipment inventory sheets when his name popped up on my screen. We talked maybe once a month, usually surface-level stuff. Weather, work, whether I'd seen the latest game. He'd remarried 5 years ago, moved to Tennessee, Started a whole new life that I was adjacent to but not really part of. I almost didn't answer. Hey, Dad. Hey, kiddo. There was a pause, the kind that meant he was choosing his words carefully. So your mom called me. Of course she did. She's worried about you, he continued. Says you're not returning her texts. Says you left Mother's Day lunch upset. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling tiles. Did she tell you why I left upset? Another pause. She said she asked about your career and you took it the wrong way. She asked why I'm not a CEO like Rachel. The silence on the other end was different now. Heavier. Jesus, he finally said. She really said that? Over dessert, in a restaurant full of people. He exhaled slowly. Listen, I know I'm not great at this stuff, but are you okay? The question caught me off guard. Not, are you overreacting? Or, you know how your mother is. Just, are you okay? I don't know, I said. And it was the most honest I'd been with anyone in 3 days. You want to come up this weekend? Diane's been asking about you. We could throw some steaks on the grill, sit on the back porch, not talk about anything important if you don't want to. Diane, my stepmother. I'd met her exactly 4 times. The wedding, 2 Thanksgivings, and 1 awkward birthday dinner. She was fine, nice even, but we didn't have a relationship beyond polite small talk. Still, the idea of being somewhere that wasn't here, wasn't the apartment where I'd been sitting alone with my thoughts for 3 days. Yeah, I heard myself say. Yeah, that sounds good. Good. Come Friday after work. We'll be here. I made the drive Friday evening, 3 hours southeast through mountains that were just starting to show green. Dad's house was in a subdivision that looked like every other subdivision. Neat lawns, 2-car garages, basketball hoops, and driveways. Diane met me at the door before I'd even grabbed my bag. You made it, she said, and pulled me into a hug that surprised me with its warmth. I'm so glad you're here. She was younger than my mom by almost 10 years. With graying blonde hair she didn't bother to dye and laugh lines around her eyes. She wore jeans and a University of Tennessee t-shirt and no makeup, and something about that made me relax in a way I hadn't expected. Dad came out from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. The hug he gave me was solid, real, the kind that said he'd meant what he said on the phone. You hungry? He asked. I've got steaks marinating. Starving. We ate on the back porch as the sun went down, and for a while nobody mentioned Mom or Rachel or anything heavier than whether the volunteers had a shot at a decent season. Diane asked about the joint exercise I was leading, and actually listened to the answer. Asked follow-up questions. Wanted to know about the logistics, the challenges, what it felt like to coordinate something that big. Your dad told me you were selected to lead it, she said. That's a pretty big deal, isn't it? It's good experience, I said, deflecting. It's more than that, Dad said quietly. It means your command trusts you, trusts your judgment. Something in my chest tightened. After dinner, Diane cleared the plates, and Dad grabbed 2 beers from the fridge. We sat in the porch chairs as fireflies started blinking in the yard. Your mom always did that, he said after a while. The comparison thing. She did it with you 2 when you were kids. Rachel was the easy one, the achiever. You were the complicated one, the one she couldn't quite figure out. I took a sip of beer, didn't say anything. I should have stepped in more when you were growing up, he continued. Should have told her to back off, but I didn't, and that's on me. Dad, let me finish. He turned to look at me. What you're doing, the army, the leadership, the service, that takes guts, takes commitment, takes something Rachel's never had to develop because everything came easy to her. He paused. I'm proud of you. I should say it more, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud as hell. I had to look away because my eyes were burning. Diane came back out with coffee and sat down in the chair between us. She didn't say anything for a moment, just looked out at the yard. Then, quietly, you know, I lost my mom young, cancer, when I was 23, and I spent years wishing I'd had more time with her, more conversations, more anything. She glanced at me, but I've learned that biology doesn't make someone a parent. Showing up makes someone a parent. Seeing you makes someone a parent. I swallowed hard. Your mom doesn't see you, Diane said, and that's her loss, but it doesn't mean you're invisible. We sat there as full dark settled in, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel alone. If you're finding something real in this story, I'd love if you subscribed and stayed with me through the rest of it. Drop Drop a comment if you've ever felt invisible to someone who should have seen you. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thursday morning came with fog so thick you could barely see the training grounds from the parking lot. I stood at the edge of the field at 0545, watching my platoon arrive in clusters. Tired, cold, ready to prove something. The Air Force team was setting up on the far side, their equipment already staged, their coordination officer checking his watch. This was it. 8 weeks of planning, 2 weeks of intensive prep, and now we had 6 hours to show the battalion commander that we could execute a seamless joint operation. No pressure. Sergeant Morrison appeared at my elbow with 2 cups of coffee. "Gonna be a good day, Lieutenant. You sound confident. That's because I trained them." He handed me a cup. "And because you planned this thing down to the minute. Trust the work." The exercise kicked off at 0630. It was chaos at first. The kind of controlled chaos that looks like a disaster to outsiders, but is actually everyone doing exactly what they're supposed to do. Vehicles moving in sequence, squads hitting checkpoints, air support coordinating ground movements, radio chatter constant but clear. I moved between positions, watching, adjusting, making split-second calls when timing slipped or communication lagged. Specialist Torres had tightened up that interval like I'd asked. Second squad was hitting marks 30 seconds early now instead of late. By hour 3, we'd hit our rhythm. By hour 5, we were running scenarios the Air Force coordinator said he'd never seen executed that cleanly outside of active deployment. By hour 6, when the battalion commander called time, my uniform was soaked with sweat, and my voice was hoarse from shouting instructions, but every single objective had been met. Better than met. Exceeded. The commander walked over as we were breaking down equipment, his expression unreadable. "Lieutenant," he said, and I straightened. "Conference room. 20 minutes. My stomach dropped. That tone could mean anything. I showed up at 0745, still in my field uniform, expecting notes on what we'd done wrong. Instead, the commander was standing with Major Chen and the Air Force coordination officer, and all 3 of them were smiling. "That," the Air Force officer said, extending his hand, "was textbook. Hell, it was better than textbook. I'm writing this up as a model for future joint operations." The commander nodded. "I've already forwarded my report to brigade. Outstanding work, Lieutenant. This is the kind of execution that gets noticed." I felt something shift in my chest. Pride, maybe, or just relief that the work had meant something. "Thank you, sir. I'm recommending you for early promotion consideration," he continued, "and I want you leading the next phase of integration training. You've got the skill set and the leadership presence. Use it." I walked out of that conference room feeling 10 feet tall. My phone buzzed as I was heading back to my office to change. "Rachel, Dad told me about the big exercise today. How did it go?" I stopped walking. Rachel never asked about my work. She'd smile and nod when I mentioned it, but she'd never followed up. Never dug deeper. Me, better than expected. Commanders recommending me for early promotion. The response came back immediately. "Rachel, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. Seriously, this is huge." Then another text. "I know we don't talk about this stuff enough, but what you do matters. It's important. And I see that even if Mom doesn't." I stood there in the hallway, staring at my phone, something warm and unexpected spreading through my chest. Me, thanks. That means a lot. Rachel, I mean it. You're leading soldiers. You're making real decisions that affect real lives. That's not less than what I do. It's just different. I saved that text thread. Didn't even think about it. Just hit save and kept it. That evening, after I'd showered and changed and finally sat down with food that wasn't from the DFSE, I called Diane. "Hey," I said when she picked up. "Just wanted to tell you, the exercise went really well today." "Yeah?" I could hear the smile in her voice. "Tell me everything." So I did. Walked her through the whole day, the planning, the execution, the commander's feedback. She asked questions, celebrated the wins, understood why certain things mattered. "Your dad's going to want to hear this," she said. "Hold on." I heard muffled conversation, then Dad's voice. "Kiddo, Diane says you crushed it today. It was a team effort, but yeah, it went well. Early promotion recommendation?" His voice was thick with something I couldn't quite name. "That's my girl." We talked for another 20 minutes. About the next phase of training, about the increased responsibility, about what this could mean for my career trajectory. Neither of them compared me to Rachel. Neither of them asked why I wasn't doing something else. They just saw what was in front of them and recognized it for what it was. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my apartment and realized my phone had 3 unread texts from Mom. I'd stopped even noticing when they came in. I didn't open them. Instead, I pulled up the photo the platoon had taken after the exercise. 30 tired, proud soldiers and 1 Air Force coordinator, all of us grinning like we'd just won something. I looked at that photo for a long time. Then I set my phone down and went to bed feeling, for the first time in a week, like maybe I was exactly where I was supposed to be. 2 weeks after the exercise, I got the official letter. Early promotion board consideration, effective immediately, the kind of recognition that didn't come easy, that meant something beyond just time served. I read it 3 times in my office before it felt real. Sergeant Morrison knocked on my doorframe. "Heard the news, ma'am. Well deserved." "Thank you, Sergeant." He lingered in the doorway. "You know what the difference is between a good officer and a great one?" I looked up. "A good officer does the job right. A great officer makes everyone around them better at theirs." He tapped the doorframe twice. "You're the latter. Don't forget that." He left before I could respond, and I sat there staring at the letter, feeling something settle into place that I hadn't realized was unsteady. That night, I drove off base and ended up at a diner I'd passed 100 times but never stopped at. The kind of place with vinyl booths and coffee that came in heavy ceramic mugs, and a waitress who called everyone honey. I ordered breakfast for dinner. Scrambled eggs and toast and bacon that was probably terrible for me but tasted exactly right. And I sat there in a corner booth, watching the other customers, thinking about the last 3 weeks, about that lunch, about my mother's question, about the silence I'd chosen instead of an answer. Why aren't you a CEO like your sister? For weeks, that question had sat in my chest like something heavy and sharp. But sitting there in that diner, coffee warming my hands, I realized something. It was the wrong question. The right question wasn't why I wasn't like Rachel. The right question was why my mother needed me to be. Rachel's success didn't threaten me. It never had. She'd built something incredible, and I was genuinely proud of her for it. But her path wasn't mine, and mine wasn't less than. It was just different. I'd spent so many years trying to translate what I did into terms my mother could understand, explaining deployments like business trips, describing leadership responsibilities like management roles, trying to make the military fit into her framework of success. But I didn't need to do that anymore. The silence I'd chosen after that lunch wasn't weakness. It wasn't avoidance. It was the deliberate decision not to justify myself to someone who'd already decided not to understand. Every text I hadn't answered, every call I'd let go to voicemail, those weren't acts of anger. They were acts of self-preservation, of recognizing that some people will look at your life and see only what's missing instead of what's there, and that's not your failure. It's theirs. I thought about the soldiers I led, the trust they placed in my decisions, the weight of that responsibility, and the privilege of carrying it. I thought about Thursday's exercise, about coordinating something complex and critical and watching it succeed because of preparation and leadership and collective effort. I thought about my commander's words, early promotion consideration, the kind of recognition that came from merit, from proven capability, from doing work that mattered. I thought about Diane asking real questions and wanting real answers, about my dad saying he was proud and meaning it, about Rachel texting that what I did was important, even if it wasn't what she did. These people saw me, actually saw me. My mother didn't, and maybe she never would. And that hurt. I wasn't going to pretend it didn't. There was grief in accepting that your own parent looks at your life and can't find value in it because it doesn't match her definition of success. But I couldn't make her see what she'd already decided was invisible. The waitress refilled my coffee without asking, smiled, moved on to the next table. I pulled out my phone, looked at the string of unanswered texts from Mom. The most recent one was from this morning. "I don't understand what I did wrong. Please talk to me." I typed out a response and then deleted it. Typed another one. Deleted that too. What could I say that would change anything? That would make her suddenly understand that asking why I'm not a CEO was the same as asking why I'm not someone else entirely? That her love felt conditional on accomplishments she could brag about at book club? I couldn't make her understand that, and I was tired of trying. Instead, I opened my texts with Diane. Me. Got official word today. Early promotion board. Wanted you to know. Her response came 30 seconds later. Diane. That's wonderful. We're celebrating this weekend. Come up Friday. I'm making that chicken you liked. Just like that. Simple. Genuine. No caveats. No comparisons. No questions about whether I'd considered other options. I finished my eggs. Left a generous tip. Drove back to base feeling lighter than I had in weeks. In my apartment, I sat on the couch and looked around at this life I'd built. Small. Sure. Simple. But mine. Every choice, every sacrifice, every early morning and late night and moment of doubt that I'd pushed through, all of it was mine. I'd chosen this path knowing it wouldn't make me rich, knowing it wouldn't come with corner offices or stock options or Forbes lists. I'd chosen it because it meant something to me, because leadership and service and the weight of responsibility felt right in a way that nothing else ever had. My mother couldn't see that value, but that didn't make it less real. I picked up my phone one more time, opened the text thread with Mom. Me. I'm not upset. I'm just living my life. I hope you can respect that. I hit send before I could overthink it. Then I turned off my phone, made myself tea, and sat in the quiet, feeling something close to peace. The invitation came from Rachel, not Mom. Dad's birthday is next month, she texted. Family dinner at Mom's house. You should come. I stared at the message for a long moment. I'd successfully avoided any family gatherings for 6 weeks. Thanksgiving was still months away. I could have declined easily, said I had duty or training or any of the 100 legitimate reasons that military life provides. But something had shifted since that night at the diner, since I'd sent that text and turned off my phone and chosen peace over endless explanation. Me. I'll be there. Rachel. Really? Mom will be so happy. I didn't respond to that part. The drive up felt different this time. No knots in my stomach. No rehearsing conversations or bracing for impact. Just highway and music, and the awareness that I was choosing to show up, but on my own terms. Mom's house looked the same as always. Perfect landscaping. Luxury cars in the driveway. Rachel's Tesla, Mom's Mercedes, and someone else's BMW that probably belonged to Rachel's fiancé. I parked my 7-year-old Honda between them and didn't feel a thing about it. Rachel met me at the door. You came. Said I would. She hugged me, then pulled back and studied my face. You look different. Different how? I don't know. Calmer, maybe. She smiled. It's good. Inside, Mom was arranging appetizers on the kitchen island with the kind of precision she usually reserved for dinner parties. She looked up when I walked in, and something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe. Or uncertainty. Sweetheart, she said, coming around the island. I'm so glad you're here. The hug was awkward, both of us trying and neither quite committing. Happy birthday, Dad, I said, turning to where he stood talking with Rachel's fiancé by the windows. Thanks, kiddo. He gave me a real hug, the kind that said he was genuinely happy to see me. Diane says hello. She wanted to come but had that work thing in Nashville. Tell her I said hi. We moved to the dining room. Mom had gone all out. The good china, fresh flowers, wine that probably cost more than my car payment. Rachel and her fiancé sat across from me. Dad took the head of the table. Mom sat at the other end, in the spot she'd claimed after the divorce like it was a throne. The meal started safe. Talk about Dad's golf game, about Rachel's latest funding round, about the wedding plans that were apparently now involving a destination rehearsal dinner. I ate my salmon and contributed when spoken to, and felt remarkably okay with all of it. Then Mom set down her wine glass and looked at Rachel with that expression I knew too well. Pride mixed with something performative, like she was about to say something for an audience even though we were family. I was just telling the ladies at book club about Rachel's company, she said. They were so impressed. CEO at 30. Most of their daughters are still trying to figure out what to do with their lives. Rachel shifted uncomfortably. Mom, and the Forbes feature comes out next month, Mom continued, warming to her subject. I already told them to buy copies. My daughter, in Forbes magazine. She turned to me then, and I saw it coming before she even spoke. You must be so proud of your sister, she said. It wasn't a question. It was a prompt. An invitation to agree that Rachel's success was the measuring stick for all success. 6 weeks ago, I would have said, of course, and changed the subject. 6 weeks ago, I would have swallowed whatever I was feeling and played my part. Not anymore. I am proud of Rachel, I said evenly, and I'm proud of myself. The table went quiet. Mom's smile faltered. Well, of course, honey. You're doing what you're doing. I'm leading soldiers, I said. No heat, no defensiveness, just fact. I was recommended for early promotion. I'm coordinating joint operations that require precision and trust and leadership. It's important work. I didn't mean... I know you didn't, I said, and I meant it. But I need you to hear me. My life isn't less valuable because it doesn't look like Rachel's. And I'm not going to keep pretending it's okay that you treat it like it is. Dad was staring at his plate. Rachel's eyes were wide. Her fiancé looked like he wanted to disappear. Mom opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I've always supported both of you girls. Support isn't just saying the words, I said quietly. It's seeing someone for who they are, not who you wish they were. I stood up, set my napkin on the table. I'm going to head out. Happy birthday, Dad. Rachel, I'll call you this week. You don't have to leave, Rachel said quickly. I'm not leaving upset, I told her. I'm just leaving. I walked to the door, grabbed my jacket from the hall closet. Mom followed me, her heels clicking on the hardwood. I don't understand, she said, and her voice had an edge now, defensive. What do you want from me? I turned to face her, looked her in the eye. Nothing, I said. I don't want anything from you anymore, and that's okay. Her face did something complicated. Confusion and hurt, and maybe, somewhere underneath, a flicker of recognition that things had changed in a way she couldn't control. I walked out to my car, got in, started the engine. My hands were steady on the wheel. I'd said what needed to be said, calmly, clearly, without anger or apology or any need for her to validate what I already knew. As I pulled out of the driveway, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw Mom standing in the doorway, watching me leave. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel angry. I just felt free. 3 months later, I stood on the training grounds at dawn, watching my newly expanded platoon run through formation drills. The promotion had come through. First lieutenant to captain in less than 4 years. Faster than average, earned through work that spoke for itself. I wore the bars on my uniform with quiet pride, not because they proved anything to anyone else, but because they represented something I'd built through choice and commitment and showing up every single day. Looking sharp, Captain, Sergeant Morrison said, falling into step beside me. They're getting there. I meant you. I glanced at him, and he was smiling in that way that said he saw more than people gave him credit for. You've been different these last few months, he continued. Steadier, like you finally figured out what the rest of us already knew. What's that? That you're exactly where you're supposed to be. The words landed softly, but they settled deep. After formation, I grabbed coffee with Captain Reeves. She'd been selected for a deployment to Germany and was leaving in 2 weeks. We sat in the DFAC, exhausted and caffeinated, and talking through the logistics of transition. You know what I've learned? Mashi said, stirring sugar into her 3rd cup. People outside the military, they don't get it. They see the uniform and think it's just a job. They don't understand that it's identity, purpose, that waking up every day and knowing your decisions matter, that people depend on you. There's no corporate equivalent for that. My mom still doesn't get it, I said, and she might never. Reeves looked at me over her coffee cup. But that's not your problem to solve anymore, is it? I smiled. No, it's not. We'd spoken twice since that dinner. Brief surface-level conversations where she asked how I was doing, and I gave polite answers and we both pretended the elephant wasn't in the room. I didn't push. I didn't demand she see things differently. I just accepted that this was where we were, and maybe where we'd stay. Rachel, though. Rachel had surprised me. She called every week now, asked real questions about my work, about the soldiers I led, about what deployment prep looked like. She'd started sending articles about military leadership and veteran issues, things she was reading because she wanted to understand my world better. I think I spent years seeing you through Mom's eyes, she'd told me last month. I'm sorry for that. I'm trying to see you through my own now. That conversation had meant more than any apology could have. Dad and Diane had driven down 2 weeks after the promotion to take me to dinner. Diane brought a framed photo of me in uniform from the promotion ceremony. Sergeant Morrison had sent it to her, and Dad had gotten quiet when he saw it hanging in my living room later. I wish I'd been a better father when you were growing up, he'd said. Wish I'd stood up to your mom more. Told her to back off. You're here now, I'd told him. That's what matters. Standing in the morning sun, watching my platoon complete their drills with precision, I thought about something Diane had said during that visit. Self-worth isn't something anyone can give you or take away, she'd explained over coffee on my tiny balcony. It's not a trophy someone hands you for meeting their standards. It's the quiet knowledge that you're doing work that aligns with who you are, that your choices reflect your values, that you're showing up as the fullest version of yourself. She'd paused, then smiled. You already have that. You've always had it. You just needed to stop looking for permission to claim it. I'd thought about those words a lot in the weeks since. There's something they don't tell you about family, that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is accept that some people will never see you clearly, and that's okay. You don't owe anyone access to your peace. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing a path they don't understand. The military taught me a lot of things: discipline, leadership, how to make decisions under pressure. But the most important thing I learned had nothing to do with tactics or protocol. I learned that silence can be strength, that choosing not to engage isn't the same as giving up, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply know your own worth and stop asking others to validate it for you. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Mom. Thinking of you today. I looked at it for a moment, then typed back, hope you're having a good day. Simple, cordial, boundaried. I didn't need more than that, and I'd stopped pretending I did. By late afternoon, I was in my office finishing evaluations when Specialist Torres knocked. Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. There's someone here asking for you. I looked up. Who? Says she's your stepmother. Diane was standing in the hallway, looking slightly out of place in civilian clothes among all the uniforms. Surprise, she said, smiling. I had a meeting nearby and thought I'd stop by. Hope that's okay. More than okay. I grabbed my cap. Let me give you the tour. We walked the grounds as the sun started to set, and I showed her the training facilities, the equipment yards, the places where I spent my days. She asked questions and listened to answers, and saw me in my element in a way my mother never had. You belong here, she said as we stood watching the flag-lowering ceremony. I can see it in the way you carry yourself, the way the soldiers look at you. Thank you for coming, I said quietly. Thank you for letting me in. If this story connected with you, if you've ever had to choose your own validation over someone else's approval, I hope you'll subscribe and share it. Leave a comment about a time you chose peace over proving yourself. Sometimes the bravest thing we do is simply decide we're enough, exactly as we are. I drove Diane to her hotel, and then headed home as darkness settled over base. In my apartment, I changed into sweats and made dinner, and sat on my balcony watching the stars come out. Somewhere, my mother was probably telling her book club friends about Rachel's latest achievement. Somewhere, Rachel was building her empire. Somewhere, my father was grilling steaks with Diane on their back porch. And here, I was exactly where I needed to be, leading soldiers, serving with purpose, living a life that might not look impressive on paper to people who measure worth in titles and salaries, but felt deeply, powerfully right to me. I wasn't a CEO. I was a captain in the United States Army, and that was more than enough.